morning, everyone. Martina Gormley is my name. I'm filling in for James Dunn, my colleague today. So today, as always, we have a member of the Grass10 team on. So we've John Douglas on today to give us an update on the pasture-based data and what's happening on farms this week. And I'm also joined with Raymond Goggins. So Raymond is a dairy farmer farming in Bandon in Cork, and he's part of the Dairygold Joint Programme. So Raymond is going to give us an update in terms of how the current grass situation is going on his farm, and also we're going to discuss the breeding for Raymond's farm and what's happening there. Okay, so John, I'll hand it over to you first, please, for your update.
Super Martina. So yeah, James says last week I told him that there was going to be rain in the forecast, and he said we'll have you back this week. So I said I'd come back. I come back after telling the good news last week. No, I think most of the country has got rain at this stage, and looking at the Madeiran data across the different stations, it's between about 1 inches and 2 inches of rain is what has fell in most parts of the country. And some people look, it's heavy showers. Some people got more than others. That's the way it is. It's very variable. Looking ahead to the next week as well, if we look at some of the LEDs, the information from Madeiran that LED uses for the grass crop predictions, we're looking at probably 1 to 2 inches again for most parts of the country in predicted rainfall here on this blue box, and that is with that information to hand, based on the farms that LED deals with. She's sort of predicting them to grow, between 50s and 70s. So we have to kind of remember that some farms now, especially in the west of the country, northwest maybe, they're back below 25 mil of a soil moisture deficit. So they're back to full growth, not being limited in any way. And then there's more of the country most of the country now is between that 1 inch to 2 inch of a soil moisture deficit, I would say. And there would be some restricted growth on that. But that could be the difference in maybe growing, especially with the above average soil temperatures, like 3 degrees above average. And if we had plenty of moisture, that we might expect to grow, 70s, 80s. But that might bring it back down to 50s, 60s for some farm. So if we look at the demand on farms at the moment, like it's back down to 40 something there from pasture base, 41. But if we take out some silage and cut back the meal, that would probably bring that up into about the mid 50s. So for most farms over the next week, I would say they should be getting back to normal. We can even tell from the pasture-based data there this week, average farm cover 630, 180 per cow. It's actually bang on target where we sort of wanted to be in pre-grazing yield of 1400. But there's some farms have dropped farm cover and need to build back up a little bit, and there's some farms actually need to start probably taking out some of those paddocks. And Raymond mentioned there before, the focus on grass quality. And that's one of the big focuses for this week, is to get grass quality back, because we've seen that animal performance has dropped. So, cleaning up some paddocks, maybe pulling some for bales now if we can for some farms. Not all farms are going to be able to do that. I understand that. So it could be a case of, not forcing animals to graze out some paddocks and, take them out next round. Or I know there are some farmers doing some topping and pre-mowing on some paddocks, because I asked the group in Kilkenny there on Tuesday how much of the farm would they think needs to be corrected for grass quality, and it was up at around 50%. So a lot of the farm needs to get back. We need to get good quality grass back into the swards. It's been a challenging year for doing that, especially with the spring followed by that dry period. So that's where the focus should be for the next week. Getting some fertilizer out as well, probably 15 to 20 units. There will be some organic release from the soil already. The big thing these swards need now is time to recover. That's what they need more than, like, some people will argue, oh, should go more fertilizer or whatever. No, the big thing they need is time. So they need time with that moisture and with that sunlight to actually start to grow. And that's one of the big things we've seen in the back end of last year after that drought, is that farmers who maybe held in that feed for a bit longer, they built more grass. Okay, because they allowed the grass time to recover. So we want to do that this time as well, but to a lesser extent, because we're not trying to build up big massive covers, but we just want to get back to the mid-season grazing targets. Okay, so probably hold that rotation in between 20-25 days for now. Allow that time to recover. A lot of the wedges are going to be flatlined. They're not going to be in a wedge. So all this grass is going to come back together. So we need to get into start grazing these covers when they're even at like around 1,000. 900, 1,000, start grazing back into those covers, because we have maybe 2/3 of the farm. It's all going to be at 13, 1400 within the space of a few days. So we're going to have to manage that by going in early, okay,
And
or
John,
avoid overgrazing or grazing
you
heavy
might
times.
just touch, John, on demand at 41 there, and the concentrates in the diet, because I know from talking to a lot of farmers, they're keen to get the concentrates back down. They've been feeding quite heavy for the last maybe 2 weeks in particular. So you might just talk about that for a minute, please.
Yeah, well, look, there's a on average there's a kilo of silage there. So look, we're telling guys to measure their farm every 5 days now, because the growth rate is going to jump. Okay, it might have been down to 30s, it could go up to 60s within a week. So, but we don't want to go up to 60s and still be feeding silage and still be feeding excess meal. So the way to make the decision on that, Martina, is to go out and walk your farm every 5 days, and then at least then you can make that decision that you're not going to feed silage and extra meal for another 5 days over beyond what you need to do. Okay, and grass dry matter is still pretty good, especially we're getting lots of sunshine still, so it's going to remain pretty good. So grass utilization should be good, animal intake should be good, so there's not really need for excess meal in the diet when the grass supply is there and the grass growth is there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I suppose maybe I'll just summarize, because I know they like to put a clip together at the end. So to summarize, we're talking about walking the farm every 5 days to monitor growth rates and grass supply. We're talking about holding rotation length at 20-25 days, allowing the grass time to recover. That's the big one. And then I suppose as your growth is increasing and your grass supply is increasing, to pull out the extra supplement in the diet, bring up your demand, match it up to the growth rates again, and keep to the mid-season grazing targets.
Okay, very good, John. And just one thing, I suppose, John, I've been hearing in the last few days in some areas, so it's not counties we're talking about here, but just some areas are saying we've got very little. We've been promised all this rain, but it's just passing us out. 5 minutes down the road, they're getting a lot of rain. So there still is some farms, and you probably have come across them as well, that are still the growth rates are quite low.
Yes. Yeah, so look, there will be some of that, Martina. Couple of places, like I was in Freshford, Kilkenny, Abbey Leaks, they had got like 15 mil up until Tuesday, or in or around that, and they missed a couple of big showers and stuff like that. So they are going to be slower to recover,
Yeah.
and if they don't get more rain, their growth rates won't go back up to where we like what's predicted. The predicted is based on the rainfall, etc. So yeah.
But as you said, John, and look, it's very practical. Walk your farm every few days, maybe
Yeah.
twice a week at this stage, because it can
Yeah,
change quite
don't assume
quickly.
things are happening or not happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and make your decision. Just because what you're feeding today, in terms of concentrates or silage, in 5 days' time, that could change very quickly if you get a big bounce of growth. Some farms at the minute are up on 90 of growth this week, so it can change very quickly. So I think that's very practical, John, in terms of walking the farm every few days, and from that, make your decision in terms of what supplements should be going in, and hopefully in the not too distant future, maybe even next week or the week after, on some farms that are having big growths, you'll actually might be in a stage where you might be marking a paddock or two to take out. So as you said, like on some farms, there's a lot of paddocks.
That's the dream.
Yes, and hopefully that'll happen
Yeah.
over the next 2, 3, 4
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
John, thanks very
Thanks very
much
much.
for the update. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we'll move on now to Raymond. So Raymond, thanks very much for joining us today. We might just kick it off maybe by you might just tell us a little bit about your farm, and maybe who's working on the farm, or who runs the farm.
Okay, I'm farming just outside Bandon. I'm farming about there's about 33 hectares in the whole block. There's about 9 hectares across the road that's used as milking platform in the shoulders of the year, and there's about another 16 hectares about 1.5 miles away that's cut twice for silage, and then the replacements go over there. So milking 120 cows at the moment. So that's basically the farm.
Okay, so spring calving, 120 cows. 41 hectare of milking block, including the land across the road, and you have your outblock then for silage and for the young stock as well. Super. So now, who's running the farm? Who does the work on the
I
farm?
suppose, look, there's a family farm, but it's mostly myself with some family help. And I had the last 2 springs, I had a UCC dairy student for 16 weeks. So and look, there would be other casual help for relief making and things like that at times.
Okay, super. So following on from, you've heard the Grass10 update there from John Douglas. So you might just tell us what's the situation on your farm currently, Raymond?
I'm currently on 6 kgs a meal, but I'm going into 1,200 covers, and even at 1,200 covers, there's some stim and things in them. But look, I did a grass walk there, was it 2 days ago, and I got a growth rate of 90. So I'll be walking again probably Friday, Saturday, and first priority will be pulling that meal back down and trying to correct grass quality. Look, hopefully maybe be able to skip the odd paddock that be taken out in a few weeks' time, and maybe pre-mow the odd paddock as well. So
yeah,
that will be the big focus, is to get meal down and get quality back into the grass. So soil temperatures are warm. Look, we probably have got somewhere around 1.5 inches of rain here, but I think there's more on the way. So look, I think we should easily hang on to high growth rates for the next couple of weeks anyway.
Super. And along with that, in terms of, so you've mentioned that you're up on 90 of growth rate now. Where were you? Where did it go to? Where was the lowest growth rate in the last
I'd say I
few
went
weeks?
down to about the 40s, I'd say.
Okay.
Around the 40s, I think, was about as low as it go. Look, it kept tipping away. I used some of my clover paddocks that I have. I use quite a lot of dirty water on them, and I do think that maintained a level of moisture and nutrients that kind of kept growth tipping away a little. So
okay.
Yeah, about 40s is as low as it went for me.
Okay, very good. And in terms now of your cover per cow, you mentioned that the highest paddocks you're going into is 1,200. In terms of cover per cow, what's that got to now? Just to give us a feel for where you're at.
I'm up very close to the 180 now. I will have to probably take a small bit of ground off the cows for heifers and calves. So but yeah, I'm up around the close to the 180. So I'm not far off where I'd like to be. So I will be doing another grass walk, probably either tomorrow or Saturday, and reassessing, can I pull that meal a little before the weekend.
Okay, super. And look, that was one of the key points from John Douglas. And when you look at your farm growing 90 on your last walk there recently, if it grows 90 again, you're certainly going to be over 200 a cow at that stage.
Yes, yeah. Look, my average farm covers a little on the low side, and going into 1,200s are a little on the low side, but that will change. That will change very, very quickly.
Okay. And in terms then, I suppose it was a big talking point, and still probably is, in terms of fertilizer. What did you do throughout the last, you mentioned the soiled water that you were spreading on your clover paddocks. What did you do in terms of fertilizer? Did you pull back? Did you stop over the last 4 or 5 weeks?
I kept going with a little. I reduced the amount. I was down around probably 14 units every rotation, that kind of way. So I pulled back a little. But look, I was still getting growth, so I didn't fully stop.
So you were in a green drought, really. Is
Yes.
that fair to say?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you kept going, you maintained your growth rate, probably averaging out at maybe close enough to 50 or a little bit under it. And you held it, and the maximum you've had to go in the last 2 weeks was the 6 kgs of concentrate.
Yeah, 6 kgs of concentrate. Yeah, okay. I didn't go in with silage or anything like that. No, just try and keep things as simple as possible.
Well, of course, from a labour point of view and a practical point of view, the concentrate is certainly an easier one. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of solids, Okay, so I'm hearing, particularly with the, I suppose the challenging spring in terms of March and the beginning of April there, cows being housed more than you'd like. We're hearing some farmers saying their solids is back overall. So Raymond, what's happening with your solids, and you might just touch on that in terms of where they are now, and have you suffered the same? Are you down in solids?
Look, I'd say I'd be similar enough to last year. Through the month of March, I managed to get cows out, I'd say, every day for some few hours, which, keeping a bit of grass in the diet helped with solids a bit. I'd say I'm about similar to last year. I would think.
Okay.
Look, if we can get a bit of quality back into the grass wards now, and hopefully solids will push on for the rest of the year.
Okay, and just while you're on that's excellent and a great achievement, and in terms of being able to get some grass into the cows through that difficult spring, and the the current situation as well. You've held your solids. What are they at the minute? Your solids, roughly speaking. Yeah.
I think I'm on around the 350 protein and probably around the 380 or so fat, something around those figures.
Okay, so which is fairly kind of normal.
Normal enough. I'm just around the 2 kgs of milk solids per cow at the moment.
Okay, so, and happy enough with that.
Yeah. Look, if you're heading into the early days of July at 2 kgs of milk solids, you're not doing too bad.
Okay. You touched on clover there. So again, it's something that a lot of people are discussing and have receded in the past few weeks and are contemplating, was it the right thing to do or not, and what to do with the recedes now at the minute. You might just firstly touch on the clover in the farm, and I also know you've receded as well, Raymond, so you might touch on that as well, please.
Yeah, look, I suppose of the home block, I probably would be somewhere around 20% now in clover. I have done a small bit of oversowing. I did a small bit last year, and it didn't work for me. I was too late in the drought caught it. Did it again this year. A little more success, and the drought did impact it a bit, but I'm hoping that it will come. So I'm trying to graze those at lower covers to allow light down to the clover and help get it established. I also reseeded about 5 acres there about a month ago. It was looking pretty poor there before the rain came. I was in between two minds whether I'd have to redo it, but I think most of it didn't germinate and has germinated since. So there's a green cover coming on the field anyway, which is looking a bit more positive.
Okay, fantastic. So I suppose the next thing I suppose that you'll probably be keeping an eye out for is in terms of post-emergent spray. I know you're probably not at that stage yet.
Not quite at that stage yet, but yes, look, with the heat in the ground now and the rain and things, it's a field that will change very quickly. So I will be keeping a close eye on it, because you like to get in early with the post-emergent spray and get in early grazing it to try and thicken it and help it as best possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because you've mentioned that you've measured, you're getting 90 of a growth, your recede has started to take off. And quickly in a few days that could go from being quite low and maybe the weeds not being too visible or quite small to next thing being too strong.
Yes, yeah. So no, look, I will be keeping a close eye on that. I want that back into the rotation, because I'd like to take out another few acres for reseeding, and deer is pushing on, so we'll be keeping a close eye on it.
Okay. How are you finding graze outs at the minute, Raymond?
Look, graze outs are not terribly bad, because I'm going into low enough covers, but there is, like, even at 1200 covers, there's quite a lot of stim in them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, look, trying to get the balance between feeding the cow and getting clean out it's a little difficult, but look, if growth pushes on and we're into a surplus and we can clean up a few paddocks by taking a few bales, will make life easier.
Okay, super. So I suppose really to kind of sum up the discussion we're after having there in terms of the grass, the big ones for you is as soon as you get an opportunity to remove the concentrates from the diet and to earmark a few paddocks for taking surplus bales, and also post-emergent spray for your reseeded sward.
Yes, yes,
And
absolutely.
again, you're hopeful, fair play to you for trying it the second time around, the oversowing, and you're optimistic that it might.
Look, I've seen it done on other farms. It is, look, whether was it, I don't think I did anything wrong. It's just my timing was unfortunate. So yeah, look, we'll stay at it. We'll stay at it. It's a learning curve. Clover is challenging to get right, but I think it's worth sticking at it and trying to get there.
Super. So moving on in terms of the breeding, so you're whatever 7 weeks in or thereabouts at the minute into the breeding. Before we kind of get stuck into that side of it in the last 7 weeks, you might just tell us, Raymond, how your 6-week calving rate, and how many weeks you normally when you finish calving and when you normally start breeding.
I think my last cow calved on the 4th or 5th of April this year, and I started breeding. I think the 25th of April.
Okay.
So this year I had all calves either gone or replacements weaned before I started breeding. So it's nice not to be trying to do two things at the one time, that you can focus on the breeding. So it makes things a bit more streamlined.
Okay, and in terms of the number of weeks of calving, then when are you starting to calf your cows, Raymond?
About the 23rd or 24th of January. So yeah.
Okay, so you've thereabouts 9 weeks to calf your 120 cows.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay, and you're obviously quite happy with that, as you've mentioned there.
Yes, yeah. Like, if you're not doing two jobs together, you have time to focus on the one job. So so for into January, February, and March, you're calving cows and looking after cows, and then when you hit the end of April, you're concentrating on breeding. It keeps life a bit more simple.
Okay, I think there's certainly lots of farmers out there that would love to be able to wave a wand and have their cows calved in 9 weeks. Maybe there's some that's a bit fearful of it, but I think there's lots that actually say, you know what, if that could happen, and I take it, versus 12 weeks or 14 weeks. So tell us how are you making it happen in 9 weeks?
I suppose pre-breeding, we'll say any cow that hasn't cycled or has an irregular cycle or anything, they're all scanned. They're all scanned before I start breeding. So
for this year, for example, Raymond, how many cows did you scan?
I think it was 17 I scanned at the start of breeding.
Okay.
There was coils put in, 6 of them, and they were fixed time AI'd. One of those, 2 of those actually had a cyst, so they were sorted. All others were clean and normal, so they were given a little more time. So
okay. So just off the scan, just 2 cows cropped up with cysts. Everything else was fine.
Cropped up with cysts, yes.
Okay.
But all were clean. The others that were coiled had very small ovaries and things like that, so they needed help. So they were coiled and fixed time AIs. They were put on a 10-day program.
A fixed time AI program. Okay, super. So 8 cows were identified out of the 17 that hadn't cycled, and because you started breeding, you said on the 25th of April, and you scanned those cows that were identified as not cycling, whatever, a day or two beforehand. They would have all been pretty much the 30 days or not far off it since they calved.
Oh yes, yeah, they would have.
Okay.
Have very close to each other.
Okay, so that's one thing you do that contributes, you feel, towards getting your cows back in calf, your 6 weeks calving rate. what are the other things that you feel that you do to have that compact calving?
I suppose after first 3 weeks of breeding, anyone that still isn't is scanned again. And this year there was 4 of them scanned a second time.
Okay.
One of them was a cow that developed a cyst in the meantime, so she was coiled, and the other 2 just got a shot of prostaglandin and came in within a couple of days.
Okay, very good. And in terms of identifying these cows, because you done your initial scan with your 17 cows, and then you done a second scan on 4 of these cows again. How are you picking up these cows?
I have cow manager ear tags, electronic system, so that's what identifies them for me. So that takes a lot of the work out of identifying the cows.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, super. Okay, so moving on, and I suppose one thing when I was looking at your data, you've 4.2 lactations on average per cow in the herd. So again, it's something that comes up a lot, and I think there's a lot of farmers that are striving towards getting over the 4 lactations on average and struggling with it. You might maybe just touch on that, Raymond, and tell us what you feel is contributing to getting those average lactations over the 4.
Look, I suppose not losing cows to infertility is losing too many young cows to infertility. It would be a huge part of it. I suppose condition of cows, body condition of cows, and their housing and things like that. Every little bit helps, but I suppose the main thing is having them in calf, that they're that you're not losing them to infertility is probably the big part of it.
And when you say infertility, like what do you feel is helping you in terms of fertility in the herd?
Oh, look, I suppose EBI is a part of it. I think my sub-index for fertility is over 100 in the herd. So having a fertile cow and looking after her, and I suppose all the little pieces make up the jigsaw. I suppose there's no one thing. It's
a combination. Yeah, it's a combination, you said, but the what's standing out for me from what you said was the fertility of the cow. You mentioned you've over €100 of fertility sub-index, and you feel it's working for you and it's helping you to get cows back in calf. You've mentioned body condition score. You've also mentioned facilities on the farm. You've just touched on that in terms of cubicles per cow and feed space and all that playing into it as well. Okay. Moving on then, in terms of your finished calving on the 4th or 5th of April. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of people on the call here, I'm sure would love to be finished calving at that stage. So have you a big empty rate? How are you doing it? Are you selling off late calving cows? Have you a big empty rate? What's happening?
Yeah, no, look, I have sold off some late calving cows over the last few years. Not big percentages, but my empty rate would be has been under 10% for the last 3-4 years. So but going ahead, I'd be quite happy with an empty rate of somewhere around 11-12%, but I'd like to be picking 5 or 6 of that percent myself. We'll say this year now there's a total of 7 cows I didn't AI at all, and 2 of those I've got rid of already. One had a health issue. The other one, she was barely doing 1.5 kg of milk solids, and she was in her 12th lactation. So look, she was eating grass that a better cow could be eating. So she got the road. So look. If I have had an empty rate under the 10% with quite a few years now, so that has helped. But I would like to be picking 5 or 6% of that of my empty rate myself if I could every year.
Okay, so as you said, if you ended up a total of 12% empty, your target is that 6% of those cows is that you didn't submit them. They may have come in heat,
Yes,
but you're all AI on this farm, so you didn't AI them.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Excellent. A question here, just in terms of your, just while you're on it there, of your empty cows, and I know you said you're culling, I suppose, throughout the year, but when do your cows that turn up empty, when they're scanned, when do you sell them? Do you hold on to them for a while, or when do you sell them?
No, most of them are gotten rid of late October, early November. They're sold out of the powder at that stage.
Okay, okay, okay. Very good. And that's your policy, and that's what you do every year.
That's has been my policy with quite a few years now. That yeah.
Okay.
The late October, early November, they're gone out of the parlour, out the gate.
Okay, okay. And in terms of finishing AI, and this comes up a lot, and it's obviously quite timely, and a lot of farmers are going to be contemplating when is the date on their farm, and are they going to stick to it, because it can be hard to stick to a date. So when is the cutoff point on your farm?
Yeah, look, somewhere between the 15th and 20th of July is the absolute cutoff, and some of those later ones I have sold as in calf ones. Some of them I've sold in the autumn after scanning. If I have enough others, so they're moved on at that stage.
Okay, okay. And what are we talking about here? 3 or 4 cows, 5 cows, 10 cows?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Like if your numbers are small, it's not. If you have the majority of them got in calf early and your numbers are small, yes, it's easy. It's not so hard to sell 1 or 2.
Okay, okay. But again, would you not be tempted? You've got them in calf, you've done the hard work with them. Would you not say, sure, what's another couple in April? Sure, what harm?
I have enough. A couple of years ago, I was milking about 126 cows. I'm gone back down to 120. I think we possibly have pushed stocking rates maybe slightly too hard, and so if I had one that's calved earlier and will have more days at grass and more milk, sure, they're only taking grass off better cows. So yeah, look,
Okay,
you have to
and
put the
again,
thought somewhere.
yeah, okay, and again, your discipline. We always that disciplined around your cutoff point on the 20th of July. Again, if a cow that you really liked ended up, you thought she was in calf, and next thing you see her in heat on the 22nd of July, is that temptation not there? And you have it on your phone, and it's telling you, alerting you to this cow. Is that temptation not there?
No, because I dry off between the 15th and 20th December. I completely dry off, and if she's not going to be calving till the very end of April, she's dry for too long. She's not going to be a very good cow for very long if she's going to be calving that late.
Okay, very good. And finally, Raymond, you might just touch on your heifers in terms of the breeding. So again, I suppose from a workload and a labor point of view, the question about what to do with the heifers and having them on outblocks and synchronizing them and sex semen and all that comes up, and trying to work it as simply as you can with your cows. So what do you do in your farm?
My heifers are just across the road. It would be part of the grazing block on the shoulder. So my cow manager I have on my heifers as well. So that gives me heat time. So this year I have 25 heifers. This year I used 15 sex straws on them and 10 conventional. So, and they were picked based on timing. So I was aiming for somewhere around the 16 to 20 hours after the onset of heat for using sex. So that's where I used cow manager for the heifers, and they were done with a technician.
Okay, so you had your cut-off point. You had to decide on a cut out point, and you said that's 15 hours. Okay, so anything that's 15 and over is for sexed, and anything that's under is conventional. Is that what
Yes.
you decided
Yeah.
on? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
super. So you keep them at home, which across the road, which is your milk and block, for the first 3 weeks of breeding, is it, or 6 weeks of breeding?
There's 3 weeks is done with them, and there's an Angus bull left with them after 3 weeks.
Okay, and then they go off to an outblock after that.
They go after second cut silage. They go to the outlock.
Okay, okay, and that's the way you manage it. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
super. I don't think we mentioned on the outside. We mentioned your current production over the last year or two, but overall, because again, I know it's something that people like to know. Overall solids per cow, where are you at last year?
I
Raymond?
was around 540 last year.
540. Okay, okay,
Around
and
540.
that's kind of where you have been for the last few years.
Yeah. I'm around 530, 540 with a few years now. So yeah.
Okay, okay. And in terms of breeding and bull selection, you might just touch on what your big focus is now going forward.
Yeah, look, my big focus now is on percentages. Percentages is probably my weakest point. So, I'm picking bulls. I was trying to pick bulls that were plus 0.3 and plus 0.2 for protein, and somewhere as close as I could to plus 30 kgs of mixed solids. So, their percentage is my biggest focus. Look, if I could deliver similar or slightly more kgs of milk solids per cow and maybe very slightly less volume, so that would be my goal going ahead. So
Okay.
look, fertility is still important. I've quite a fertile herd. I want to hang on to it, but my biggest focus is on percentages.
Okay, okay.
And I suppose on that, there was less than half my cows that got Frisian straws, and those cows were picked on their percentages. So
Okay.
I'd be
So
hoping-
from milk recording data.
all my cows are genomically tested, so I picked it off that they're predicted on their genomics.
Okay, okay.
But on looking through milk recording, the two are very closely linked anyway. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you're really chasing, you've identified this as an area on your farm, that in terms of the performance that you can improve on. You've also hit on that actually if you go up in percentages, which is well achievable on your farm, that you can actually stay at the in or around the 540 kgs of milk solids, but actually go back on volume because of the extra percentages.
No, percentages would be my big goal going ahead. Yeah.
Okay, super. I've no doubt you're going to achieve that in the next few years, Raymond. Thank you very much for taking time out today. Excellent to see, and it was the first thing that jumped out at me was the lactations that you're achieving, the 4.2, and the IMT rate is just excellent performance. You're clearly running quite a simple system and doing it very well. So look, thanks for coming on, and best of luck to you for the rest of the year. Bye,
Thank you.
folks. James Dunn will be back to you all next week. Bye now.